All right, so now let's talk about some common reactions or counters that we're going to get. It's the most common one is really, it doesn't really do anything, but when you're in the arm saddle position, they just roll through and they kind of give you an arm bar. And that just looks like this, but it is important to address and categorize it. So we're in here, I go for my arm saddle, however I get it, and they roll through, something like that. Now I might have different leg configurations, and that's okay, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but I'm either going to be hooking under, going over, or bringing it over the top. Personally, I'm going to prefer going over the top, but also I'm looking to maintain control on this elbow when my opponent starts to roll. Now, I can keep this arm connected to my body wholesale, and then I can start to adjust my position, moving my legs wherever I need them, and then I can go back to the hand when it's time to finish for the actual arm bar. All right, so let's rotate a little bit, and then we're here. Now, what happens is they just kind of cannonball forward right away to defend the arm saddle. They give up this arm bar position, and now we can cinch it up and we can go for our finish. But immediately when they land in this position, they try to hitchhiker right away and now escape the arm bar early, and then they can get away like that. So that's why we have to control the elbow. So as soon as they start to hitchhiker and go, I just simply go with it. And as he continues his hitchhiker, I keep his elbow in my hip, and now I just pinch that knee, and I'm back into finishing on the arm saddle again. He might roll through again now and cannonball himself down. All right, now I'm making sure I'm controlling across his face so he can't sit up like this. So if he tries to sit up, it's very, very difficult. And now I have this hook. If he tries to roll back the other way and hitchhiker, I might be able to hook his head and slow that process down, go for that finish. But even if I miss this hook and he keeps hitchhikering, I'm just, again, putting this elbow on the top, going back with it, closing everything down, and getting my finish right there. All right, what I don't want to have happen, I just have to be really, really careful, is when he dive bombs through and kind of bounces back right away, that this doesn't happen and he can start hitchhiking to get away and pass my guard. So that would be a huge problem. Very, very common common reaction that happens is pretty spazzy. Not a whole lot happens, not very effective. The other thing that'll happen is as soon as I go for my armbar, he just butt flops down. And there's two things that can happen. He can butt flop on the floor with his weight on the floor like this, or on top of me. So we'll address this one first, when he butt flops right on top of me. All I'm going to do is as soon as he butt flops on top of me, I can't go for my arm saddle directly, but I can easily hook his hip, and my bottom leg, I'm just going to step on the floor right here, and I'm just going to scoot underneath him as he falls over the top of me like this. Now immediately I can put my legs over the top, and then we're in that same scenario again. He might hitchhike or he might not, and I'm just going to get that finish, all right? So again, if my opponent does not go to the floor and butt flop, they butt flop on top of me, I'm biting my heel down just like so, pulling him over top of me, and I can roll him. But what happens if he grabs his thigh right inside as he's kind of pulling his knee in, but he's not quite butt flopping yet? We can kind of turn it into a butt flop by grabbing his ankle or his foot and using my head or shoulder as a fulcrum on this knee and just rolling it like so. Now, one of two things is going to happen here. I'm just basically going to slide down and get that finish, taking the arm out. Or you see how he's basically falling on top of me? I switch back to that hip. I go ahead and roll him over. I keep this leg, and I go for my finish right there. All right? Well, what happens if the butt is on the floor? This is where it feels a lot cooler, and you can use any variation that you want. But now I feel if I can flare my knee up a little bit, keep control of that elbow to extend the arm, I now can get a break right here. But sometimes he flops on top of my knee, just like this, and it's very, very tough to extend the arm in this position. So I'm going to hug that hip, step on the floor, and I'm going to lift my hip up, and now I can start to move myself around. All right, notice how he stopped butt flopping here. I might hop up and do the back take, which we'll go over later. But if he's still butt flopping like this, I'm just going to build height, and now I'm going to roll my head underneath. And I can either go to his back or keep going to that arm bar right there. So we're going to go over the back take again in a later video, so definitely scroll around and check that out. All right, so again, we're in. He starts to butt flop. I catch. I lift my hip, roll myself through, and now I have two options. I can go for the back take by hooking, catching, and shooting through. Or I just bring my leg over the top and finishing that.
Hey guys, in this video we're going to be looking at how we can separate the hands, whether they're connecting their hands together or if they're clasping onto their thigh. Either way, we're going to be able to separate the hands and attack. So I'm here, boom, I start attacking my arm saddle, they connect their hands. Exactly. So whenever their hands are connected like this and they're not anchoring on their lower body, I find it the easiest if I just look to place my foot on the back arm. Let's see, can I rotate it? Yes. I'll place my foot on the back arm, right near the elbow, almost like I'm trying to leg press something off me. And all I'm gonna look to do is connect this elbow tight to my body, like a reverse Kimura grip. And I'm gonna look to extend my foot on the elbow as I pull the hands apart from each other. So just make sure you're C-spining in this shape, right? I can already feel the hands giving out. So you don't wanna be hunched over as you're breaking this. And I'll show a different angle in just a bit, but make sure you're arching your spine, you're engaging your scapula, you're bringing your hips forward, and now as I step, I should be able to separate the hands, and immediately, hand goes in front of the thumb to intercept the clasping of the thigh or a reconnection of the hands immediately. And I almost like to grip the hand so that I'm putting a mitten on their hand. All right, this takes the utility out of their fingers. Now I can straighten out the arm, burrito grip, I can relock my legs in a triangular fashion, start breaking the arms and attacking my armbar. So I'll show it real quick without the arm. So whenever I'm attaching myself to the elbow, I bring my shoulders forward, getting that elbow onto my chest, and then I reactivate my spinal alignment. So I'm bringing my shoulders back, my chest forward, and doing the C-spine shape. That's going to maximize our strength, our structure throughout our body. So as I step on the bicep near the elbow, I can extend with my foot, but also arch my back in conjunction with that leg extension. So I'm here, boom, boom, boom. I start going for my arm saddle position, and exactly, they start clasping their hands.
And so it doesn't matter if I'm S grip or gable grip or anything like that, right?
Doesn't matter. So now my foot touches that back arm right near the elbow. This hand, palm towards us, connect to the wrist. Why do I want to do palm towards us? Because I'm going to be pulling this hand away from that palm where it opens. So I'm here. I'm connecting my chest to the elbow. I'm going to C-spine. So bringing my hips in. So my hips are connected to the shoulder. Bringing my shoulders back. And now all I'm going to do is extend and pull. Immediately intercepting that thumb so it can't connect to anything else. Revert back to a burrito grip. And now we can attack. All right. Alternatively, as I'm attacking my arm saddle, they might clasp onto their thigh, all right? A very basic attempt at opening this hand will be me reaching through, and same thing, applying that mitten formula where I'm trying to control all four digits and compressing the knuckles together, almost like that weird handshake your uncle does at birthday parties when they're trying to be funny. You're trying to squeeze those knuckles together so it weakens their grip. And as I do this, I'm going to be able to unlatch that grip, pull the arm through, and start looking to attack the armbar. But sometimes it's awkward to reach those digits because they're hiding it with their calf. I can't quite get a good purchase on their hand. So what we're going to do instead is one of my favorite breaks. My hand comes through and cups my thigh, all right? And as I cup my thigh, I'm going to be looking to pinch my knees together, so I'm putting pressure on their shoulder. Now, my forearm right now is right behind the elbow. And this is going to be fine if the person's of a normal size comparable to you. Maybe they're not that strong. You can usually get away with just leaving your arm behind the elbow. As you go to frame this knee away, all I'm going to look to do is chest escape and pull this arm towards me. And again, immediately intercepting the thumb so they can't re-grab, and then turning this into the armbar. But sometimes it can be proven difficult. Even here, they're stronger, bigger than you. So what I like to do is I'll move this arm down to the wrist. like so. Really hugging it deep, nice around the end of the lever. So now when I go to push and chest escape, it's much stronger. So even someone who's bigger and stronger than you, when you attach yourself to the weakest length of the arm, the end of the lever, they're not going to be able to hold on. All right. And then of course from here, going for our arm bar. And then sometimes what I do is I'll combine these together, right? So I can start, boom, attacking my arm saddle. Boom, we're here. They latch onto their thigh. I start by separating here. And maybe I feel like, okay, there's like a little bit left. The space opens up. I reach back through. I grab the 4 fingers, pull it out. So you can start to combine these different breaks together, flip the arm, and attack it. So make sure to practice all those so you're well equipped to deal with your opponent, whether they're grabbing their hands together or grabbing their own thigh. You should be able to separate those hands and get to your submission.
So now let's talk about another variation where we can start to switch from the arm saddle position towards a Kimura situation or a Tariko Plata situation, okay? So I'm in my arm saddle, right? And let's say, you use any grip that you wanted to get into it. Once we get into the arm saddle, my opponent connects his arm to his thigh, or maybe even he connects his hands. But for right now, we'll just go arm into thigh. So this is another variation that we could do, but you feel like you're not having any success ripping that grip away, and it feels a little tough because he's kind of more driving in that you feel you can't start to slide down and get on the lower part of the lever. So we can always start to switch our hand through to this side, and I can start to pull in a nice Kimura. This will allow me to use my Kimura trap position to start stepping on the floor, elevating my hip up, just like this, where I can start to chase his back, or I can start to open up, taking my leg through, this one out and the other one in, like so. Now from here, I can kind of step on my opponent's hip. I can internally rotate my hamstring to press his head down, and I should be able to connect it to my chest, C-spine, straightening my back like this, and separate that grip completely. From here, I can slide down, blocking this leg, switching my hip, and I can get kind of like a power Kimura right here and go for that finish. But I can also use that Kimura grip to break this and immediately start switching back towards the arm saddle. So I could use it as a submission, or I could use that submission as a grip break to chain it to another submission, depending on what's necessary. Now, one thing I really, really love is once I go for this like Kimura situation, my opponent is not allowing me to get this arm out, and I just can't seem to break it out. I'm pressing, and I'm a little far, so I don't feel I can connect my chest. So he's still connected to his thigh really tightly. So I feel like I can't pull this out. So all I'm gonna look to do is step on the hip, connect my hand to my leg, and now I can slide around that corner, bringing my leg over the top for a Tariko Plata. From here, I'm free to triangle off, and I can use this knee in the hip to kind of move his arm down, separate it away, and now I can start to open up and roll my opponent to the other side. From here, my leg is going to turn his head. I'm going to flip him down, post up all the way, and now I'm free to block his hip with my hand, and I use my hip to punch his hand off of his chest like this. If he has his hands connected, I'm just going to take that grip. Can you connect your hands? I'm going to take that grip with my butt and move it to the side. Once I move it to the side, I'm just going to use my hip to break it right here. Either the grip is going to break or his shoulder is going to break, but we're going to get that submission. At the same time, I'm posting to block his hip. I'm using my hip to slide into that grip. I'm also curling my heel back to put his spine in a curved position so it's much weaker, therefore the grip is much weaker. And now I'm posting, blocking, I just move my hip. I move my hip. I move my hip. And I can sit all the way through to get a very, very strong position, submission in that spot. All right. So again, let's connect these two situations together. So I'm in, I get to the arm saddle, and he connects. All right. Whether he's on the thigh or connecting his hands. Right. I'm trying to separate and do everything we already learned. I feel I'm having some trouble. I lift my hip. I punch this hand through to the bottom thigh right here. And now I can start going either straight for the Tariko Plata or to the Kimura. Right now, I'm going to go straight to the Tariko Plata by simply coming up, hooking this back leg and pushing my weight into him so that this bottom leg is very, very light. From here, I can start to take my leg out, triangle it off, separate it, open and roll, and I can go for my Tarico Plata finish. Alternatively, I feel I can always switch back to that Kimura and start going for my power Kimura situation this way, or inserting my leg again now that the grip is broken, and I can go for my arm saddle. So all these positions are very interchangeable and very fun to use one and another. When they block one, you can just go to another, and we don't have to be tunnel vision on anything. That's really what jiu-jitsu is all about. They block one door, you go into another, all right?
Hey guys, in this video, we're gonna be looking at a few back takes from the arm saddle position. So the first one is pretty cool to do when the person's maybe keeping their posture a little higher. So I'm here, with my Nogi lasso, start attacking my arm saddle position. They clasp their hands or connect their hands or grab onto their thigh, either one. And now, as I feel like I'm trying to address this and maybe disconnect the hands, I feel their shoulders start to rise, exactly. So when this happens, I'm gonna look to build up my base. I can even swap my hands as if I was going for a Tarico Plata, and I'm gonna take my leg out. So I'm gonna like do this sit out shape so I can thread my foot over the top. Now at this point, if we wanna start going for those Kimuras and Tarico Plata options, we can, but another thing we can just do is relinquish the arm. And as I relinquish the arm, I'm gonna let go, grab the hip, and change direction of my hip so I can start facing towards my opponent. Now from here, I can swap my hands. I can start climbing up to the back if that's the reaction they're giving me. Or at the very least, if they start turning up to me and step their leg up, I can easily transition to my De La Riva and start attacking from my De La Riva and go for back takes. So it's really cool that whenever we can take our leg out and thread for that De La Riva preemptively.
And because your hip is over my knee, I don't feel like I can just take my leg out and open it usually. It's a very late stage De La Riva, so it's a good attack.
So I'm here, different feet, he connects, right? If I feel like, so go back 1 second. If I feel like I could just like make space and like take my leg out, I can. But usually if they're clasping, it's gonna be really tough. So we have to build our base up. So grab the far hip, get your hips up. You can swap your hands like you're going for Tarico Plata. Do this sit out, and now weave your foot over the top. Now from here, I'm gonna relinquish the arm, and I'm gonna switch my hip. So like, as Danny was saying, I'm bringing my hip close to the knee. So it's like wedged in place. Now if they roll over like Danny was gonna do, that's fine. I'm in position to just finish my bolos and take the back. So whether they roll through, giving us the back take, whether they stay here, I can just climb up and take the back. Or if they drop and swap knees, I can just transition to my De La Riva, start going for back takes here. So many things we can do. So that's one back take we can do, maybe when their head's a little higher. The other one is when I feel like their head's down, and rather than weaving my leg through, I'm gonna back step to the back. So again, I can anchor on the near leg, back hip, lift myself up. I'm gonna thread my arm through like I'm going for a Kimura. And now, one thing I like to do as well is I'll put my shin on top of the head to prevent my opponent from changing their decision. So if they wanna keep their head down, I'm gonna staple them down to this position here. Now, I can come up, I can start to back step, and when I do, I like to latch onto the shoulder, and I like to hook the back lat with my knee. This is gonna allow me to now square myself up, punching my underhook, so I can start looking to take the back on the far side. So again, boom, boom. So I need to build my base up. And one thing we can do as well, so we're just gonna throw a bunch of details at you guys, is I can put my foot here. All right, and we're gonna see why that's important in a second. But I like to put my toes laced over their heel. So I build my base up, I can get my shin on the head, boom. And now, because I have my toes here, when I switch to a Kimura, I place my hand on the floor and I just hip bump my opponent down. So I find that when I break their base down onto their hip, it's gonna be easier to now backstep and take their back. So if you see an opportunity to do that variation, it's just gonna increase your chances of taking the back. Boom. Yeah. 2. All right, gotta build my base. Boom. Shin over the back. Swap my hands. If I can get my toes here, great. Hip bump, back step, take the back. 5.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about some of the different entries. We've talked about arm saddle position, how to stay sticky, how to attack, how to stop them from running away. One thing I am going to say, we talked about don't be too tunnel visioned. If you feel you're losing the position, you made a mistake, just bail. All right. So you got to know when to bail. So when should we bail? Right. Well, when we lose that elbow position, right? Let's say Nick has me in an arm saddle. He starts to create the position, but my arm straightens out and I'm able to start slipping it, right? Whenever he needs to bail, the priority number one for him is going to be pull his knees to his chest, close the pass boxes, and frame like your life depends on it. Because when this person starts to flop on you driving in, they pull away and they try to just come at you right away. You're going to have frames in place to keep yourself safe. So if you're here like this and you pull and then they start flopping, you see how he has 1 frame, 2 frame, 3 frames, and now he can recover that other frame, re-attack, or go to the lower body or whatever he needs to do. But the priority is to make sure that you don't lose. Stay safe. Once you make sure that you're not losing, then we can start to go back to winning again and figuring out how to win. So one time where we would need to bail very early, when they turn that elbow, they start to pull out. It's a little loose. Don't stay on it too long and get past. That might look like this. He has a little bit of a loose connection, and then all of a sudden, I start to circle towards a north-south. He didn't have any frames. He was focused on pulling me in with this arm saddle, and I was able to start to connect. I'm able to start to run around, and I'm able to stabilize. So we don't want this to happen. Another thing that could happen is when the opponent steps over the head. So same thing, he starts to go for arm saddle, and you start to get a situation where the angle is a little bit wrong, and I'm over the top. Now I can start to pull my arm out, and same thing again. I'm clearing those frames, getting into north-south. So if he gets tunnel vision, he's hanging onto this arm a little bit too long. As I start to turn, he's going to get flattened out. So the moment you feel that you're losing this connection, I want you to make sure you bail early, bail often if you need to, especially when you're just learning this position, and go back to framing and stay safe. Now, we can counter, just like we talked about. So let's say he has arm saddle and we're just sticky enough, a little looser, we're just sticky enough where as I start to run around, he can then switch to the lower body. He can then enter the legs, and that's okay. So let's say you're entering to the position, but you still have that structure, your frames are in place. Hey, if he wants to fall on you, you can get sticky, you can attack. However, if you don't have those frames in place, bail. Stop trying to attack them. Just make your frames, stay safe. That's the priority. And then from there, you can just rebuild your attacks again. So. All right, so now let's look at some different positions where we can just catch the arm saddle from and have some fun looking around. Now that you know how it works, you know how to finish it and all that other stuff, let's have some fun finding it from some different spots. One of the basic spots is when you're on top and you do a bump by to pass the guard, mostly the knee shield. So you're in a situation like this, your opponent starts to frame, you can blade your shoulder, switch to a hook, and you can start to bump by. But instead of just like leaning forward, we're going to look to kind of pull this situation back. All right. Now from here, I'm just connecting right away. So I have my arm saddle essentially from top. I could maybe jump and sling my leg in. So I'm going to lean back and I'm going to lift my hip up and I'm going to jump my leg and I'm going to start to fall through something like this. So I can get a nice little jump over arm bar. But you don't have that shoulder torque, which is that thing that really makes it an arm saddle, right? So when you're on bottom and you're framing that shoulder down, you're torquing that shoulder, that's what gets you that arm saddle, all right? So we're here, we bump by, I'm here like this. What happens? What's one of the number one things? They try to use this knee shield. So we're just gonna fall all the way north, roll through, and we're gonna look to come up on the other side, torquing that shoulder and landing in the arm saddle on the other side. 6. Covering a lot of ground on this one. but it's a lot of fun to hit. Bump, catch, drop to your knee, drop to your shoulder, roll yourself through. There's your frame in the back. There's your shoulder torque, and we're back into the arm saddle. Again, start having fun connecting these together. You go for the arm saddle, you miss, you start sliding through, taking the back, and chaining your positions together, making it a lot of fun. One time fast. All right, so now let's talk about the double pull position really quick. And this is a position that I think gets kind of a lot of hate on it. But, you know, if you're sitting here and you're both kicking each other and you're not really trying to engage, I get it, you're stalling. The same way if you're standing and you're just smashing and hand fighting for 10 minutes, you're stalling and it's lame. But it is a system and it's a whole position and people need to learn it. But that's a whole other course, so buy that when we release it. But for right now, when I start to attack my opponent, I'm going to look if their upper body is leading or their lower body is leading. And now I can start to attach to them depending on which one it is. So if I want to attack my partner's lower body first, they're probably going to respond by bringing their upper body forward. Now, as they go to bring their upper body forward, it's going to be very difficult to start getting in and attacking their legs. So I'm going to place a frame right up here on my opponent's hip. As soon as I place a frame on my opponent's hip, one of two things is going to happen. He can start to lean back and allow me to pick up that leg and start attacking my opponent's leg. Or a lot of times what happens is as soon as I go to step, he goes to grab my ankle. Now there's a big nice loop here. That elbow is pointing in the outward direction that we need it. And I know this is happening. So the moment that this happens, I switch from the hands. There's my underhook. I can start to invert and I can start to thread my arm saddle position from the double pull. So again, we're here in double pull and I'm looking, is my opponent giving me lower body or are they giving me upper body? Of course, an extreme reaction would be him like leaning and I could maybe jump on his neck. So he's not in there. He's not reaching and leaving anything open. So we're creating a scenario where we're kind of priming him to open up that space for us. So I like to control my opponent's hands. I start to place a frame on my opponent's hip and I can start to push them backwards, getting access to that leg. Now, as soon as I go to do this, pushing him backwards, going for that leg, he starts to grab and lean forward. Now, as he's leaning forward, I can't get the leg, but it's very easy now to switch. There's my back frame. I have my leg coming through, biting down, and I can go for my arm saddle finish from there.
Hey guys, in this video we're going to be exploring how to go for the arm saddle from a couple of De La Riva situations when the person is denying us access to the back take. So this goes back to the 3 boxes concept. If we're trying to attack the back, but the person decides to remove that option from us, they're going to have to give us one of the other 2 boxes, either allowing us to sweep them or submit them, right? And if they do allow us or give us the reaction where we opt for the submission box, the submission to use would be an arm saddle feed into an arm bar. So we're going to be in our double pull situation. Like Danny had previously mentioned, they can be upper body forward or lower body forward. Most of the times as they're giving their upper body, I can start using their upper body to move and create angles where I can start stepping and gaining access to the lower body. Now, when I'm in my De La Riva position here, if Danny doesn't use his frames to stop me from progressing forward towards his hips and ultimately his back, I can easily just start climbing, right? Start creating situations where I can take them back, sweep them down, take top bullet or passes. So an experienced grappler is not going to just allow that to happen. As they see me going to flank around, they're going to opt to frame us. So we have a harder time flanking around the hips and gaining access to the back. But whenever this happens, what does this look like? It looks like a bump by scenario. So I can easily just go ahead, cut the tricep, bump this wrist out of the way, and gain access to my opponent's shoulder. So I can start torquing that shoulder down towards the legs, and now I have access to my arm saddle. So I can start weaving my leg through, and there's lots of finishes we can do here, but what I like to do is I like to lift my hips up, and I start to roll towards my arm bar. Since their weight's going back, it's going to be easy to just sweep them backwards. All right, so again, I'm trying to go for my back take. He poses on the upper body, no problem. We go for a bump by, and I really like to make sure that shoulder's crunched down. Now I can take my foot out, I can scoot in and feed my leg forward. Now at any moment they pull their leg out, no problem, I can still climb around to the back and we don't lose out on anything, okay? So again, if they keep their arm here, it's gonna be easy to start weaving through, attacking the arm saddle, and we can start going for our taps here. Now something very similar happens when we have our De La Kiva and our opponent decides to put weight into their lead leg. I can off balance them with the Popliteau grip, or sometimes if they're leaning super forward, what I like to do is I like to club the head and guide them down, okay? Just make sure when we do this, rotate this way, Danny. I see this happen a lot, where people will allow their foot to kind of float. This gives my opponent an ability to maybe win the knee line battle or slip their knee over the top. And this happens because I don't have frames. So make sure when you're playing De La Kiva, you're framing with your foot on the stomach. So the whole time I'm going for my arm saddle, I must have my frame on the hip, on the stomach, preventing my opponent from one, flopping forward, and two, potentially backstepping into like a submission, like a saddle. Yes, this happens a lot as well. So again, I have De La Kiva, I have frames and hooks. They're leaning forward, weights on their lead leg. So I off balance them like this, I make sure I have frames. Now, as soon as I see that rather than giving me the sweep or the back take, they decide to post their hand on the floor to remove those two boxes from me, I'm gonna switch to my submission. So my hand on the collar tie switches to a C grip on the neck, and I'm gonna push the head away as I look to underhook this arm. From here, I'm using my frame with my foot and my hand to keep them off me so that I can turn my knee in and take this leg out of their control. Now from here, it's going to be really easy to start slinging my leg over, and I like to sling it behind a leg, so I have two options. I can carry forward with my arm bar, or if they pull their arm out, it's going to be easy to switch to back takes because of that crab hook. All right, so again, I have my De La Kiva. Right? They lean forward, weights on the near leg. They're bringing their head forward, giving me a collar tie. Knees to my chest. I extend the off balance. Thumb grip, scoop, throw your leg over. If you can extend this arm, you get the arm saddle. If they pull their arm out, no problem. I can extend the legs with my baby bolo and take the back.
All right, now let's explore getting the arm saddle from the saddle. So we're gonna go to the saddle position here, leg across, and maybe you have both legs, maybe you don't. But again, same thing, when our opponent posts on us or on the floor where we can get access to this, we have a good opportunity to attack. Now, if you're in the legs and you're gonna bail on that when he posts on the floor to go arm saddle, that's probably kind of dumb because we're kind of downgrading. You have both legs controlled. This is a wonderful scenario. There's not really much of a need. But if he starts turning his hip, and I feel I'm losing this leg, and he starts framing on me. Now he's far hip, and it's a lot harder because he's already hiding this heel back here. It's just, we're getting into a situation that's going, this is a little bit extreme, but this is going not good for us. I'm starting to lose it. Now I would say getting to the arm saddle is more of an upgrade. So same, we're here, we're starting to lose this one. I'm just gonna cup, bump, and I'm in my saddle position again. Once I get this position here and I connect everything nice and tight, I'm free to use my elbow, or I can free my knee underneath his knee, just like this. So I'm going to fall back, sliding my knee under, and now I'm free to crank that shoulder, and I can start to press his knee down with a hook over the top. Now I'm free to use my knee to frame his hip to create some space here to start to insert my leg, and lift my hip and go for my finish. Alternatively, let's say we're here and I start to go for my arm saddle and I get my knee out and I start going in this direction and he starts pulling his shoulder away. I'm a little bit looser. I can start catching that hip, framing his shoulder, and I can slide down and control that wrist. Now from this situation, my knees are touching. It's very hard for him to turn into me because I have the hooks. Very hard for him to turn away from me. And a lot of times the opponent will start to put their back onto the mat. So now I can easily lift my hip up. I can start to roll myself through, and I can go for back takes and leg drags, or I can easily come up again, shooting through, and start to pull myself under and go for the arm again. All right. So again, you're in the saddle. If you have both legs controlled and life is good, let's just finish that. But you're starting to lose it. He's starting to post. Boom, let's pass. Let's start to separate. Bring my knee into frame his hip so I create that space so I can insert my leg and I can get my finish. Alternatively, let's say as I'm doing this, he starts to pull it away. I'm going to frame like this. If I lose it completely, it's easy for me to come up all the way and take my opponent's back. And if he stays in this middle ground and I keep this wrist, now he falls back to the mat. I can invert myself underneath and I can start going to leg drags. I can start going crab ride and I can start doing a lot of different things. But if as he falls down and turns in like this, I can start shooting my hip through and catch that arm, pulling it across to the far hip and go for my finish. All right, so let's look at another situation. It's pretty common when you're rolling, you can get into an omoplata situation. The person starts to roll out or, start to stack you. So let's just talk about that really fast. Let's say we have our opponent in an omoplata. You're starting to build height. You're starting to look to finish and breaking your opponent down, stuff like that. And they're defending quite well. So one thing that you can do is just start to transition from the omoplata back into the armbar or the arm saddle, basically by taking my knee and I can just turn and I can dip my knee back onto the inside as I go for this wrist. So I'm just dipping my knee to the inside. I'm coming back and now I'm inserting my leg over the top, biting everything down, closing everything off and going across that top leg to get the finish again. So a little bit redundant, but it is important to understand a very basic connection where we're going from the omoplata, he starts jamming into me or whatever, and I can easily switch using that knee as a frame, sliding back, controlling, stepping on the hip, creating more space, or even inserting that leg and going for my finish. So a little bit redundant, very, very basic, but highly important that we understand just how to make that transition if necessary. Similar to the hitchhike.
So in this video, we're going to be exploring how to connect front headlocks to arm saddles and arm saddles back to front headlocks. And I just think it's a cool correlation to play around with, understanding that in order for the person to defend the front headlock or the guillotine, they have to pull away, they have to defend their neck, and in doing so, they're going to give up another attack on the upper body, the arm saddle, right? So say my opponent's in turtle, right? I can start organizing this to start sitting down for arm and guillotine, so I can start falling back. And in an effort to defend, they're going to have to start pulling their weight away. And as I feel this, my other arm comes over the top. I like to grab my own elbow, and then I start shoving their neck away with my forearm. And in doing so, I'm getting that push to start feeding for my arm saddle over the top. And in doing so, now I can start attacking my arm saddle the way we've been attacking, and so on and so forth. Likewise, if I feel like I can't finish the arm saddle, they're clasping, whatever the case is, what I like to do is I hook this near leg with a butterfly hook. This allows me to start building my base up to my elbow, and now I can start grabbing my opponent's chin on the other side. And I'm going to look to actually, let's rotate. I'm going to look to take their head out of alignment so they can't look to really turn into me and create any real threat. Now I can start letting go of the arm, and as I connect my hip to the armpit, I'm actually going to look to connect to my guillotine once more. And so now we can be in this loop where I'm attacking the upper body. I feel like he's pulling away. I can start scooping, pushing, attack the arm saddle. I can start hooking. I can start grabbing the chin. I can sit back out. I can attack my butterfly sweep. I can attack the guillotine. And I just keep chaining this over and over again. So this is more of like a freebie for us, kind of giving it to you guys to kind of play around with. Because as you can see, there's just so many ways we can chain the arm saddle position with other systems. So really, this is just like a way for you guys to see how versatile it is and to kind of play around and find out what else you can do with it. Invent your own transitions and connections. So try to have fun with the arm saddle position, and I hope this inspires you to look outside of what we showed.
All right, so we made it to the end of the course for right now. Again, the way that we think about jiu-jitsu and what makes jiu-jitsu fun to us, we try to package that in for you guys, and hopefully you can run with it now. You can start to, like Nick said, invent your own positions, build more off of this. Shoot us a message, let us know what you come up with. If you have any questions, hit us up as well. Just remember, the arm saddle position is a position in itself, okay? It's not just a submission, very much like a triangle or very much like an omoplata or, an ankle lock. There is a submission for sure, but also it is a position first, and there's a submission threat from there. Remember all three boxes: the sweep, the submission, and the back take. The arm saddle, of course, main box is going to be the submission one. But remember, it is a position, and check all three boxes as much as you can for sure. We also want to just give props to, Choi and, our coach, Mikey Musumeci, just paving the way for sure on the arm saddle position. The innovations that they've had is just crazy in this sport, and the technical positions that they've invented and that they're, continuing to popularize is amazing. And of course, there's so much information in here, and there's so much that's inspired from everybody else as well. And that's what jiu-jitsu does, is it evolves. And so let's keep that going. Let's keep that evolution going. Have fun drilling and training with your partners, and let's keep evolving together, guys. Wuss.